How could you describe your role at MCPL?
That's what we were just talking about.
How has that role changed over the years?
Oh my gosh, technology has been the big thing because we didn't have computers at all when I started. So everything was manual. So you had to keep, like now I keep all my, our time cards and all are electronic. So basically computers doing, all the work and I just have to sign off on it at the end of the month, or into the pay period. Of course, one of my first extra jobs was filing catalog cards in a card catalog. We don't have that anymore. We didn't public computers. People come in for all you've used them for all kinds of different things, from anything from just looking through email to applying for a job to looking for a place to live to Facebook, just connecting with people.
How did the patrons here used to do that?
We didn't have it exactly. People wrote letters or people did that. What we used to do was, for example, when I was in school, and they used to have in fourth grade they did a Missouri history unit. Well, you didn't have Google back then, so the kids would come in. We'd have just crowds of kids and like World Book Encyclopedia, the M for Missouri to write, or different books that they would use for their reports. We have what we call a vertical file, which was a file cabinet with all kinds of articles and clippings and so on like that in it. And so they would use if I need to slow down, just let me know. They would take that to write their reports. I think it was third graders would do Raytown history. And so we had all kinds of articles. Anyway, we had, newspaper clippings, magazine clippings. We still have, we're one of the only branches that have that. We have this microfilm reader over here. Mm-hmm. And we have the Raytown papers on microfilm back to like the 1950s, I think. So that's how they got their information, so on like that. So that was a big part of what we did. People don't read as much as they used to, so we used to have a lot of people that browse the aisles and would get their books and all that way and check out huge stacks of things. We still have a few, but we don't have as much of that anymore. It's much more technology driven than it used to be.
I wouldn't disagree there. Technology's changed things.
Oh yeah, completely.
Made things easier, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
All right. That was a very insightful answer. Good. Next question.
Sure.
How did your upbringing influence your work ethic?
Well, okay. I was, as an example, if I was truly sick, I could stay home. My mom was, okay, yeah, you stay home from school, but you didn't just stay home from school to have a day off. I went to school, so I'm that way at work. If I'm sick, I'll call in sick, or if I'm on vacation or whatever. But I have a job to do, and I was raised that way, and the people here are counting on me, not, my staff's counting on me. You, the public, are counting on me to be here. So I have a responsibility to be where I'm supposed to be. And, from when I was in school, that was my responsibility to be at school. And it's kind of carried over with me to work. And also, I try to treat everybody fairly, because, I deal with a wide range of people, but I believe that you treat everybody fairly, and in turn, they'll treat you fairly also.
Treat everyone fairly, and they'll treat you fairly also.
Yeah. And for the most part, it works out pretty well. Yeah, for the most part.
Most part, it works out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. When were you? What was the year you were born?
I'm 59 years old, so I was born in 1965.
1965. Mm-hmm. 6 years before my dad, or 6 years after my dad.
Okay.
I'll move on to the next question.
Sure.
digging a little deeper here. Do you believe your role at MCPL has impacted people?
Yes. I didn't really realize it till like these last few weeks that when people began to know I was going to retire, and I had a lot of patrons come in, and then I think you, I would thank you. I think you come in when we don't. I say we don't do it in branch, but our administration takes care of our Facebook page. So anyway, when they posted that, and just to read all the kind comments, all the kind replies back, and so many of the names, the majority of the names I recognize, and you don't realize day to day the impact you're having. Even I'll use you for an example. We see each other. You come in. I'm sure I've had an impact in some way, but I don't realize it. And so it's humbling when you find out that you have had that role with people. Because for me, I come to work, do my job. So.
And that's mainly what you're focused on, the rudimentary day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
But you don't actively think about how you impact other people.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, for sure. Wouldn't disagree with that. All right, this is more. Next question's a bit broader.
Okay.
You were already addressing technology earlier.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think libraries will look like in the future?
I don't know, and I say that because I don't know AI is coming in, and we're having there's things I can't even begin to imagine what it will be like. Sadly, the printed word is diminishing in the importance to people. However, I feel there's still people that would rather have an actual book in their hand than a screen. There's people that would rather have, an actual magazine in their hand than a screen. So I think for that, there'll always be a role for us in that. Again, I'm going to go back to the technology role. And I'm like this myself. Why should I spend a bundle on ink to have it dry up in my printer when I can come here and pay a dime or 50 cents and print what I need to print. So I think very much the technology, the community part, which is part of it being a community hub, that will be the role much more in the future. We have what we call our digital branch, which is like our audio or our ebooks and whatnot like that, which is huge. So that's a part of the library. It's just not a physical location like this. So I think that's going to play a big role, even more so in the future.
We're truly living in the information age.
Isn't that for sure? We are. As scary as it can be.
It's an interesting time.
No, sometimes, yeah.
All right, this next question, second to last question.
Okay.
What do you? I've heard this from quite a few people about their jobs. Has your job been the fulfillment of like a lifelong dream?
Oh no! When I started here, I was only going to stay for while I was in school, and just because I started part time as we're called pages, but we shelved. That's what we did. We shelved the returning materials. Excuse me. And I was only, like I said, I was only work part time while I was taking classes. Well, then a full time opened up, so I applied for that, and that was for I'm trying to think, probably about 7-8 years. And then the assistant manager position opened up, and so I applied for that. And then the next level up would require a master's degree, and I didn't want to go back to school to do that. So I've stayed where I am. So, but no, when I came, I never would have dreamed I'd have stayed this long. I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated high school. So
you just kind of, I guess, in a
fell
sense,
into it.
Yeah, you fell into it.
Yeah, it found me, and I found it.
Found me, and I found it. I like that. All right. Last question. Maybe it's the last question.
Sure.
What are your plans for retirement?
Well, I do plan to work, not here because of camp, but to work part-time in one of our other branches at just doing the front desk stuff. I don't know which branch because that hasn't been settled yet. So, but I want to do part-time at one of our other branches. I'd kind of like to travel a little bit. I like to bike ride, so I'm gonna like check out that Rock Island Trail and some other things like that. I like Royals games, so I'll probably go to those.
Where do you think? Where do you think you'll be traveling to? Where do you want to travel?
I don't, basically around the United States, nothing big or anything. Probably my bucket list place would be Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
My dad was in Hawaii a long time ago. I've never been
really?
before.
I've never been either. So yeah,
It looks beautiful. I haven't
it
been there
does
for a while.
Yeah, it does.
You said you're a Royals fan. Any thoughts on the Chiefs? Just random.
I like Chiefs too, but I'm much more baseball. Baseball's my game.
Baseball's your game.
Yeah.
You used to play or
No.
just always been a vested interest?
Yep.
I've been to a lot of Royals games myself. So
Yeah.
pretty interesting. Never been to a Chiefs one, but
I've been to Chiefs games too. Yeah, I still like the Royals better.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.